All right, welcome to The Explainer. So you did it. You built something awesome, a website, an app, maybe a huge database. That's the fun part. But now what? Now you've got this big looming question, where is this thing actually going to live online? Yeah, let's unpack that, because it can get pretty complicated.
I mean, this is the challenge, right? It doesn't matter if you're a solo creator, a tiny startup, or a giant corporation. You need servers, you need storage, you need a network. But how do you get all that? You start hearing all these tech terms thrown around, and honestly, it can make your head spin.
So to cut through all that noise, let's just simplify things a lot. We're going to use a really simple analogy. For a minute, just forget about servers, forget about tech. Instead, picture this. You've just moved to a new city for a job. Your office is a ways away, and you need a car to get there. Simple problem, right? So how are you going to solve it?
Well, when you think about it, you've basically got three main options. Option one, you could go all in and just buy your own car. Total ownership, total control. Option two, maybe you're not ready for that commitment, so you rent a car, long term. You get the car, but not the huge price tag up front. Or option three, you could just pull out your phone, tap a button, and get an Uber or a Lyft anytime you need a ride. Now keep these three options in your head because, and this is the cool part, they're the exact same models we use for putting things online.
Okay, let's connect the dots. It's time to swap out our cars and our commute for code and servers. You're about to see how buying, renting, and ride-sharing are basically the three ways we power the entire digital world.
So first up, we have what's called on-premises hosting. This is one-for-one buying your own car. You own the servers, they physically sit in your building, and you and only you are responsible for absolutely everything. The hardware, the software, the security, the cooling, the whole shebang. Okay, next up is dedicated hosting. And you can think of this as your long-term car rental. Some other company owns a physical server, but they rent it out just to you. It's dedicated to you. They own the machine itself, but you're still in charge of the day-to-day stuff. You know, making sure it's running right. Kind of like keeping gas in the rental car and the tires filled with it.
And finally, the big one you've definitely heard about, cloud computing. This is your rideshare app, plain and simple. An Uber, an Ola, whatever you use. You own literally nothing. You just tack a button, get the resources you need for a specific task, and when you're done, you're done. No maintenance worries, no long-term contracts. You just pay for the ride.
So there you have it. Your own car, a rental, or a rideshare. How in the world do you choose which one is right for you? Well, it really boils down to three big questions. What's your budget? How much control do you need? And how quickly do you need to grow or shrink?
And this table here really lays out the big trade-offs at a glance. You can see this inverse relationship, right? As the cost goes from this huge upfront thing to a super flexible pay-as-you-go model, look what happens to control. It goes from complete down to low. Owning your own car on premises gives you total control, but man, that initial price tag is high. The cloud is the exact opposite. And dedicated hosting, it's trying to be that happy medium. Let's break these down one by one.
First, let's talk money. With on-premises, you're basically buying the entire car dealership up front. It's a massive capital expense. With the cloud, though, you're only paying for the miles you drive. If your project is just sitting there, not doing much, you're barely paying anything. This completely changes the game for how you launch something new.
And this quote nails the difference between the rental and the rideshare. Think about it. With your rental car, that dedicated server, you're paying that monthly fee even if it just sits in your driveway for 10 days. But with the rideshare, the cloud, you only pay for the actual ride. It's a total game changer if your usage goes up and down. All right, let's switch gears and talk about control. I mean, if you own the car, you're the king of the castle. You can paint it purple, you can put a new engine in it, you can drive it to another country if you want. With a rental, yeah, you have a lot of control, you can drive it wherever, but there are rules, right? Like maybe the rental company says you can't take it out of state. But in the cloud, your control is super low. You're not the driver, you're just the passenger. You get a login, and that's kind of it. You have no idea what make or model the car is, and you certainly have no clue where in the world the physical server holding your data even is. The cloud provider, think Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they handle all that behind the scenes. And finally, scalability. This is where things get really wild.
Let's say your app suddenly goes viral overnight. With the cloud, you can scale from needing, say, 2 gigabytes of space to 2 petabytes. And for perspective, that's 2 million gigabytes. And you can do it pretty much instantly. You just flick a switch and pay more. Now imagine trying to upgrade your own personal car to be able to carry 1,000,000 times more stuff in 5 minutes. Yeah, not gonna happen.
Okay, so given all these trade-offs, cost, control, scalability, who's actually picking which option? As you can probably guess, it all comes down to what you're trying to do. Let's take a look at who's in the driver's seat for each of these models.
The buy your own car model, on premises, is really for organizations that are, let's say, extremely serious about security and control. We're talking big banks, government agencies, places with super sensitive data. They don't trust anyone else. They want their data in their building, protected by their security guards. For them, that absolute control is worth all the cost and hassle. And the cloud? Well, that's pretty much built for startups and new companies. Anyone who needs to move fast and be flexible. You can get started with almost no money down and grow in a heartbeat. That middle ground rental option, dedicated hosting, that's often for big, established websites that have predictable traffic. They want more power than the cloud, but don't want to own the car. But for pure, raw speed and agility, the rideshare model is king.
Wow, okay, we have covered a ton of ground here, right? We've gone from buying a car all the way to cloud servers. So let's just boil this all down to one final, really important takeaway.
Because at the end of the day, when you strip away all the technical jargon, the choice is this simple. It's control versus convenience. Do you want the absolute total control of owning everything yourself, or do you want the amazing convenience of letting someone else handle all the headaches? That's really it. That's the fundamental trade-off.
And that really leaves us with a big question for the future. As the rideshare model, the cloud, gets better, cheaper, and more powerful, are we all just going to become passengers? Will we all eventually give up the keys and just ride in a massive, shared digital world? Or will there always be people who say, no, I want to own the car? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in to The Explainer.